Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch. Sisters who watch.
Only Murders in the Building.
Reasonable Doubt.
Hey, oh hey, welcome to Sisters Who Watch.
I'm Shelby.
And I'm Laura, and we're sisters who watch everything, TV, movie, sports, concerts, and even murder mysteries. We love to watch, and we love talking about it even more. Today we're watching Only Murders in the Building.
And Reasonable Doubt. 2 Hulu shows with unique takes on the crime genre.
Ooh, and before we get into it, PSA y'all, please make sure you're giving Sisters Who Watch 5 stars wherever you're listening. 5 stars, please. Rate, download, subscribe to our episodes. And you can follow us on social media at Sisters Who Watch across all platforms. And you can buy our merch on our website, sisterswatch.com. And you can support us through listener support and Zelle. Thank you. Let's get into the background of first Only Murders in the Building.
Yes, we're starting first with Only Murders in the Building Season 4. As always, here is the logline. 3 strangers who live in the same New York City apartment building and share an obsession with true crime suddenly find themselves embroiled in a murder. Truly a crazy show, but it's very funny. It's a critically acclaimed murder mystery comedy with thriller elements that premiered in 2021 and has had 4 seasons to date. Created by Steve Martin and John Hoffman, is a spoof on the true crime murder mystery podcast world. So very buzzy, very trendy, led by a great ensemble cast of Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. And they're always picked to talk at award shows, and they're always so funny whenever they're doing a bit. What an unlikely trio. Of course, Steve Martin, Martin Short are friends, but to throw in Selena Gomez in there, it's bizarre. But it works. It works great. She's their niece, or maybe even granddaughter, you know? She fits that mold. We reviewed Only Murders in the Building Season 3 last year. So if you're interested on our takes from the most recent season before this, go tune into that episode. And I'd say our expectations coming in, at least for me, they were kind of low. I really do like the show, right? I love a comedy. I think this is such a witty, clever show. But season 3 wasn't my favorite. If you listen to our podcast, we both were a bit more of a wait for part of the season, a watch for the ending. There were ups and downs. So I was a bit concerned about season 4. How are you feeling? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I 100% agree, because season 3 was very slow. It felt kind of obvious who did the murder. It was the son of the production. And yeah, it wasn't as interesting. I did Steve Martin, which of the triplet did it, right?
It was so theater focused. It was funny.
That was the only thing I remember from that season. Which of the triplet did, that's the only thing. So I feel season 3 was okay. I remember Taubert, Jesse Williams' bizarre character, and his romance with Selena Gomez. Not my favorite, absolutely not. Mabel and Taubert, not my couple, not my fave. I don't stand
Not couple
them.
goals?
No. Only Murders has a star-studded cast, always, right? We got Meryl Streep last season, and she's back. So we're excited for all the cameos and even more stars. Zach Galifianakis, Eva Longoria, Eugene Levy, Molly Shannon, Melissa McCarthy, Kumail Nanjiani. It's they're just tossing them all on us.
I'm trying to figure out how they afford such a star-studded cast. I'm what's the budget for the show? Unless people are taking pay cuts, or maybe they only work a few days because the roles aren't every day,
How?
It's not adding up. Also, have you heard that one of the reasons Meryl returned to the show is because she and Martin Short are dating in real life?
I mean, I've heard that there's a lot of rumors that they're dating. Is this confirmed? It's all over social media being sparks fly as romance rumors, continue. But I didn't know they were officially dating.
I'm pretty sure. The article I saw was someone who's been on set was saying yeah, they're always together. They are seen together. Like they chat after each other's scenes. Like they're just so into it.
I've only seen rumors of their romance, but I would love if that's actually happening. That's so exciting. They love a cliffhanger on this show. At the end of season 3, this really shook me. Sazz, aka Jane Lynch, aka Steve Morton's stunt double, gets shot in the apartment. What did you think of that?
I was sad because I thought Sazz Pataki, played by Jane Lynch, was such a good character. The fact that she was playing like Charles Hayden Savage's stunt
Love it.
double was hysterical. Every time she was on screen, I was like, oh yeah, Jane Lynch, she's so great. So to have her die, I was like, oh no.
Sad.
But I also was excited in the sense that it meant that like there'd be more focus on Sazz in the upcoming season. So it was like a double-edged sword. It's like, okay, don't want her to die, but this means at least we're gonna get more Sazz and like understand her backstory.
Yeah, I agree. I was sad because I think she's one of the best characters.
Mm-hmm.
And also I feel like Jane Lynch, we haven't seen much of her recently, you know. I don't know what she's been up to. So it's been great seeing her back on screen. So I'm sad that her character died, but we learned a lot more about her this season. What were some of your favorite moments, Shelby, from season 4?
Well, I think the whole like premise and like major like murder picture storyline was really smart. Like turning the true crime podcast and adapting that into a feature film. It led for there to be so much commentary about like movie making and like the studio and having the actors who are playing the characters and like the crazy studio exec played by Molly Shannon. It opened up so many avenues and funny things that they could tackle. So I thought that was really smart of them. As someone who like lives in LA, works in entertainment, like the kind of commentary about like filmmaking and studio life and like notes, it was just hilarious. Because it was focused on Sazz, it was like a focus on stunt doubles and it reminded me of like the Fall Guy. And I was like, is this the year of the stunt double? Like, what's going on? Like, stunt doubles are having a moment.
Yeah, Shelby, you gotta make a movie about stunt doubles to get on the trend.
Guess so. This is not really something I'm impressed about, but if you're out there trying to hit the trend, write a movie about stunt doubles.
I love the movie storyline and how they're like, oh, Only Murders got picked up for a movie. And you're like, what? And they're all like, why would you want to make a movie about this? Selena Gomez is so uninterested. I liked how they casted Eva Longoria, and she was like, wait, why did you make me older? And they were like, well, the age gap is creepy. I agree. They're like 40 years older than her. She's literally could be their grandchild. So I thought that was funny commentary, and I just loved how the actors were playing, you know, over the top versions of themselves. That's always fun to see in a TV show or movie. Actors playing themselves.
Oh my gosh. Like, for me, Zach Galifianakis, like, hating Oliver initially was hysterical.
Amazing.
Him being, like, the moody actor with the attitude, didn't see that coming. And then, like, Eva Longoria just trying to always promote things, like, all her brands and products. And then Eugene Levy really trying to get in to know Charles, like, trying to make him cry or get mad. This is show emotion. One of my favorite characters on the show is always Oliver. I think Martin Short is so funny and needs to win an Emmy for the show eventually. When they're trying to figure out, like, how could the murder have actually happened, right? If someone shot her from the west side, they live in the east side, they would have to move the body. Like, they're trying to figure the timeline. Like, it was so fast. And Oliver was like, oh, I'll act out the murder scene and I'll go over there and then in like 7 minutes, I'll come back to this side of the apartment and bring the body down. Like, I'll do it. And him trying to like be active and run, and it was hysterical. I literally could not stop laughing. I tweeted something about it from our like Sisters Who Watch Twitter, and it did pretty well because I think everyone was like, yeah, Martin Short's hilarious. Like, that was just peak comedy, that whole scene.
He's so funny. And I will say, one of my favorite moments from the season is when they were, Charles and Oliver were like scaling the wall, trying to save Mabel.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the final episode. And Charles is like, how are we gonna go? Like, I can't do this. And Oliver hops out, and they merengue together. And they're like, step, step, twist, step. I was like literally crying. I was like watching these 70, 80-year-olds twisting and dancing on this ledge was too much.
Another moment that I liked was the entire Valley of the Dolls episode, because there was another murder attempt on the trio when they're doing a photo shoot, and Paul Rudd and Zach Galifianakis get shot. They're like, we have to get out of New York City. So they go to visit Charles's estranged sister, Doreen, played by Melissa McCarthy. What an iconic guest star. And so they go to Long Island to stay with her. And it's just chaotic. She's all these dolls in her house. Her husband's living in a boat in the driveway. She's attracted to Oliver. It is so chaotic. And then the actors show up because they're like, well, we should be with you guys. Why are you guys not with us? We can help. And then Molly Shannon, the exec, shows up because she's like, oh yeah, Howard told me where you guys were. And it was just so funny because they were trying to be on the low and not let people know where they were. It was supposed to be a safe house. And then all these people show up. And just a comedy of errors.
Yes, and that fight scene between Doreen and Loretta. What in the world is
Loretta
going
shows
on?
up. Meryl Streep is like, Oliver, trying to get in contact with you. What happened? You are acting weird, trying to break up with me. Because Oliver was in his feelings, thinking that Loretta was cheating or getting close with hot co-star. And Loretta literally flies across the country to comfort him, be like, no, I'm with you. And then she comes in and finds Doreen making a move on Oliver, and she freaks out. And then they fight.
Yes.
Fight for her man. Seeing Meryl Streep fight Melissa McCarthy is insane.
Not on my 2024 bingo card at all, I must say.
Definitely not.
What did you think of the Ron Howard cameo?
I thought it was great. And again, I was like, how many guest stars can there be? But
I know.
Right, in the sense, this was a season about filmmaking, movie making. It worked in the story, whereas they felt the bear didn't really work. So I felt it worked, but I was like, wow, they are really not playing around. But I thought it was funny to have Charles, Mabel, and Oliver be background on a set. And since I've done some background work, I'm like, it's kind of hilarious seeing how they portrayed it. It's not a lie. And then the fact that Oliver was like, yeah, Ronnie knows me. He was making it seem like Ron Howard and him were friends because they would connect at this Chinese restaurant years ago. To find out that Ron actually remembered Oliver when Oliver and Charles are having Oliver's bachelor party in quotations because it wasn't really, but they're at this Chinese restaurant. They're having a shot, some alcohol, everything Oliver wanted, but not in your typical way. And Ron Howard shows up and he's like, Oliver! And then they connect and he joins them. I thought that was crazy. And then he finally reveals who was the stunt double on the movie he worked on that messed up and got Sazz frustrated. And then that was the big reveal that it was Marshall P. Pope, the apparent screenwriter of the Only Murders film. And at the same time, he was in the apartment with Mabel, and she was figuring out that it was him because she saw a script that said Only Murders in the Building by Sazz Pataki. And so all of this is coming to a head because of Ron Howard. And I was like, wow, so well done. So well written.
Yeah. Like you said, there were a lot of cameos. And I think at some points I was like, okay, this is a little distracting. I think the whole, kind of commentary on having celebrities and, that was kind of the point of the season. But I liked how they used Ron Howard to, advance the story. And I think, did you think that Marshall was going to be the murderer? I immediately thought he was suspect, right? But they made it seem like it was kind of obvious in the beginning. They presented him as this kind of tortured, messy guy, and they saw his shoes or whatever. And I was like, he seems so obvious. But I think they did that on purpose to kind of like misdirect you.
I agree. Initially, a little suspect of him as well, because I'm like, this guy seems sketch. But then
Right.
it was like, no, it can't be him. And they did a lot of misdirects. I think the twist, or what I didn't expect, was that, oh, he was a former stuntman. Like, and that's why he was able to do it. That's why he was able to scale the wall and do it so quick. And the twist that he took Sazz's script and she found out. Like, I felt like there were all these other nuances that we didn't know, or like I didn't think of, that came out. And I was like, oh, like his motive. Like that makes more sense. Like the issue in the Ron Howard set would, and then, which is why Sazz is done with him. But Sazz, knowing he's a writer and wanting advice, but then he steals her script. And it's all these crazy nuance that I did not see coming, which is why I was surprised at the end of like how it came to be. But I agree, he was always sketch.
Yes, I always was suspect. And I thought a good nugget, which led them to thinking it was the sisters, the twins, when Marshall was like, if she was shot at this time and then she was incinerated at this time, that's only like 7 minutes. And that's impossible for, one person. And that's when Oliver tried to run across the building and he could not do it. But, right, like, Marshall's not a normal person. He's a stuntman and he scaled the wall. So I thought that was like a good nugget in the beginning. Something else that was so fun and lovely this season was, of course, Oliver and Loretta getting married. So fun. And it happened in the last episode, so you're like, okay, who's gonna die, right? Like, that's what I was thinking. I was like, it better not be one of them.
I was like, do not mess with Oliver and Loretta's love story, please.
And I was thinking the same thing. Shelby, what were some of your least favorite moments?
Well, you mentioned the brothers, sisters briefly, and everything about them was like so bizarre to me.
Yeah.
And I think that was the point. There are these two sisters who were like the filmmakers and were strange and just oddballs. And they kind of freaked me out every time they were on the screen. And I think that was the point. And then their connection to Dudenhoff and then Dudenhoff's connection to the neighbors across the street, like that was all very bizarre and a bit far-fetched for me. Like, that's when it kind of got a bit unwieldy. And then you realize that was all a misdirect because none of those people killed Sazz, Yeah. Like, that was all to, like, confuse us. So I get it in that sense. But I thought they were also, like, strange.
Yeah, I agree. The brothers, sisters, whatever. I think the whole Dudenoff storyline and the neighbors was kind of convoluted. Like, so they had nothing to do with anything. Like, why did we spend so much time on those neighbors and them cutting the Iberico ham? Like, it just, it felt like not a waste of time, but it felt like we spent so much time on these neighbors and Dudenoff for it to be a dead end. And it's like, why do we care that they were submitting his checks and they ended up like killing him or letting him die? I just didn't really understand it.
I think it shows how, like, in murder mysteries, true crime, how there can be all these clues, but they're like pointing you to like the wrong people, right? Because Sazz was shot from Dudenoff's apartment on the west side. So they're like, oh, it has to be Dudenoff. They're finding out, oh, Dudenoff's cashing checks. And then the neighbor's like, oh, but he lives in Europe. So there's like all these things. And then when they find Sazz's bones in the incinerator, they also find Dudenoff's. And they're like, what? So I think there were all these like random clues that were like red herrings that would have made you think it was like a bigger scheme that involved Dudenoff and the neighbors, but that was just like a coincidence. So I agree, it wasn't really helpful for us as viewers, but it showed like, oh, the podcasters, these detectives, they're just following the leads they're given. So that didn't shock me, if that makes sense.
For sure. What did you think of the cliffhanger? Who killed Doorman Lester?
Yeah, so that's, I would say, like my biggest, least favorite moment. Because Lester didn't do anything to anybody, to our knowledge. Lester's just been minding his business, being a good doorman, always friendly. And what's crazy is at the end of the episode as well, we meet Tia Leone guest starring randomly, asking the podcasters, like, hey, could you guys, like, investigate, this disappearance for me? And they're like, no, we don't do that. And she's like, well, yeah, I just came up here because there's no doorman. I just came up. And it was not something I feel like in the moment I pay attention to. It was like, oh, maybe the doorman slipped away, went to the bathroom. And then you're like, bruh, that was a nugget that someone killed him. Again, kind of sad because I'm like, dang, he seems like just a nice character. I'm curious now, like, whoa, we don't really know much about Lester. So in my mind, I'm like, he's innocent. What would he do? And now I'm like, ooh, maybe he got mixed up in something. You never know.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't very present this season.
No, he wasn't. So
we're gonna learn about the whole, back storyline that we missed about Lester. So
I will say it was smart of them to choose him because, like you said, we rarely saw him, so he was not even on my mind. Like, I thought it might be like Oliver or Loretta or Howard. Like, I did not think it would be Lester by any means.
No, definitely not. Anything else you want to add about Only Murders?
Thought it was great. Loved it. We'll give our recommendations at the end about Watch or Wait, but you can probably infer what we're going to say.
Yes.
When you're a parent, every day brings a fresh hell to deal with. In other words, there's always something. If you're looking for a parenting podcast with two moms who really get it, a show that will make you laugh, but also give you ideas for actually making things a little easier, check out What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Amy and Margaret are like having funny mom friends who are there to remind you you're not alone and it won't always be this hard.
Amy and Margaret are both moms of 3, but with completely opposite parenting styles. Margaret is team, it'll probably be fine. And Amy is team, let's make another spreadsheet.
In every episode of What Fresh Hell, they offer lots of laughs, but also practical advice, parenting strategies, and tips to empower you as a parent.
And with over 800 episodes in their playlist, if you've dealt with it, Amy and Margaret have probably talked about it.
For the pickup line, for the soccer sideline, for a commute, put What Fresh Hell on your playlist. Laugh in the face of motherhood. Search What Fresh Hell wherever you listen to podcasts, or head to whatfreshhellpodcast.com.
Support Amy and Margaret, y'all.
All right, time to move on to Reasonable Doubt Season 2. Shelby, give us the background on the show.
Yes. Okay, Reasonable Doubt Season 2. Second show for our Hulu murder mystery bonanza. As always, here's the logline. Jack Stewart juggles work, family, friends, and a complicated personal life as a brilliant and fearless defense attorney in Los Angeles who bucks the justice system every chance she gets. Yes, yes, yes. And it's a Hulu original by the Onyx Collective, which is like a Black-focused content group at Disney. So they have made shows like How to Not Die Alone, featuring Natasha Rothwell, anything with likely a Black lead or Black led story. Like, I don't know if you watch the like hair love doc.
Oh, on Hulu? Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. So like that also was like Onyx Collective. So they do, which is nice. So like I usually like their content because it's like all celebrating Black stories. Reasonable Doubt is created by Ramla Mohammed, who is a writer on Scandal and Little Fires Everywhere. And it stars Emayatsi Corinaldi and McKinley Freeman as the leads, Jax and Lewis. And I actually went to a season 1 screening at the Gathering Spot of the show that featured a panel with Ramla, Emayatsi, and McKinley. So cool. I like met them at that event and like talked to them afterwards, asked questions. So I was a fan of season 1, and I feel like I got a little bit more insight about the show and the creation of it. And because Ramla is from LA, the show's set in LA, she really gives like so much of LA to it. And she films in like very popular Black spots, like Simply Wholesome, which I've taken you to, Laura. They have great like smoothies and like patties, and like it's a health food store and restaurant. And she also loves Jay-Z, so every episode is named after Jay-Z song. and Reasonable Doubt, the title is a Jay-Z song. So like she really put her stamp on the show, and I'm so happy for her. You know, her first time being a creator showrunner.
Wow, and the fact that the show's popping off. I remember seeing it's always in the Hulu top 15 when you're on Hulu. It's always there. And the fact that it's getting renewed for a third season, I mean, that's amazing. I'm so happy for her. And I didn't know the thing about the Jay-Z songs. That's a good nugget.
Whenever I watch an episode, I pay attention to the title, and like there was one like On the Run, the episode when Shanelle tries to run, like so the titles are like a Jay-Z song that relates to the actual episode.
For
so
sure.
It's always really clever. And season 1 came out in 2022, so it's been a bit of a 2-year wait. I included season 1 as one of my like best TV shows of 2022. So our first podcast episode ever, the best movies and TV shows of 2022, has a mention of Reasonable Doubt. So go check that out if you haven't. Listen to our first episode. Come support Sisters Who Watch from the beginning.
Yeah, I know we both loved season 1, so we're both very excited. What were some of your expectations coming into this season?
I'd say it was high. 1, right? We already said we loved season 1. 2, it had been such a long gap. And initially, it took a while to be renewed. So I remember I would watch it with my friend in LA. We do watch parties. And then we kept being like, when is it going to get renewed? When is it going to get renewed? And I remember I felt like I kind of got insider information because season 2, they were bringing a new exciting Black famous guest star, Morris Chestnut, to the cast. And Morris was in talks to be in like a Netflix movie. And the exec was like, oh, Morris can't do it because he's about to film Reasonable Doubt season 2. And I was like, oh my gosh, it got renewed and Morris is gonna be in it. So I got a little like early tea on what was gonna happen. So I knew a little bit before the rest of the world that it was coming back. But that got me so pumped because we love Morris Chestnut.
I mean, how can you not?
And I've met him at Netflix when he like came in for a meeting.
Insider knowledge.
Even more beautiful in person, which is crazy. Like, you know, some people don't look that great. He looks amazing on screen and in person. Wild.
Bizarre. And I kept on looking him up being like, how does he look this good? He's in his 50s.
Morris looks great.
How?
And he's happily married and has a family. It just seems like a great man. And one of our like favorite, you know, Black male leads, going all the way to like Boys in the Hood and The Best Man. So you can play that game. So love that he's getting this opportunity and working.
Right.
For him. What were your expectations coming in?
Yeah, same. High. Season 1 was really good. Excited for season 2. Expecting a lot. And right, we had that cliffhanger. Like, oh, Shanelle killed JT. You know, I was really interested to learn more about, you know, that whole storyline. So I was very excited about that. So I will say, as we talked about Morris Chestnut, that was one of my favorite moments. When he first walked on the scene, he walks into the courtroom, and Jax is like, I called in a friend. And then Morris Chestnut struts into the room. Wow. And my jaw was just like on the floor. I was like, yes, this is what we want. They gave us what we wanted. Thank you. Thank you, Ramla. And everyone who, all the producers, thank you.
They know what Black women want.
That's...
So yeah, every scene with Morris Chestnut, I agree, was great.
Fantastic.
Everything about him was a favorite moment. The fact that he also was trying to be like a lawyer that was helping out women, like,
yes,
his character was good. My only annoying thing is that he and Jax never really got together. Like, they flirted and kissed. And so, like, I, as a Morris Chestnut fan, was like, yes. But the fact that Jax stayed loyal, I actually think was good for her character, since she wasn't loyal in season 1 with Michael Ealy. So, good for Jax's character growth. Not great for the Morris Chestnut fans.
Part of me also was like, yes, Jax, Morris Chestnut. This man, your husband, has a side baby. Like, come on now. But, you know, right, it showed character growth.
It did.
And imagine if she did sleep with Morris Chestnut. That would have just been a disaster. A disaster.
Therapy would not have helped anymore. So,
oh, goodness.
Rough. You mentioned Morris Chestnut's like strut. The way Jax struts and walks and dresses, the way she carries herself is just a favorite moment for me too.
Same.
She's such a baddie. So powerful. And it
Yes.
reminds me a bit of like Olivia Pope. And Ramla did work on Scandal, so that doesn't surprise me. But everyone would be like, yeah, the way Olivia would walk, the way like Viola Davis and How to Get Away with Murder would walk, like
Yes.
every like Shondaland black woman has like a
Oh
fierce.
yeah. Giving Maya Jama the way Maya Jama walks. Love Island crossover. The
Like,
way Maya Jama like swings back and forth.
yeah,
No,
I'm like,
it's the
not
same
a normal
thing.
walk, but they make it work. Yeah, they make every single curve, move, and swing, and I'm like, wow, baddies.
100%. I was thinking the same thing. My corporate fashion inspos, Jax Taylor, Olivia Pope, Viola Davis. There we go. The trifecta. I will also say I really liked Crystal's storyline, Jax's assistant. I loved how she was like, I want to, be more than just Jax's assistant. I'm really passionate about law. I'm going to study and take the LSAT. A little a little closer home for me. As someone who's interested in going to law school. So I thought that was a cool storyline, and I loved how Daniel was helping her study and get through that law school process. And I love Jax's reaction, being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you! Congratulations!" Because Crystal was, a little nervous to tell Jax that she was leaving. But I thought that was a good storyline.
Agreed. And because I felt like season 1, we didn't know much about Crystal, I'm glad they gave her a bit more this season. And it's interesting because I felt like Daniel didn't really have that much going on. But if it meant we got more from Crystal, I was like, that's fine.
Right. And if Crystal's leaving, then we'll probably get more of Daniel next season. Yes.
Another moment I liked was learning more about Jackson Lewis's son, Spencer, and how he was kind of dealing with like how he wanted to do like theater instead of basketball, and how he like didn't want to let down his dad or like be embarrassed or have people judge him, and he kind of got into a fight because people were making fun of him. And then how Lewis and Jax were like, no, we're going to support him in this. And like, I feel like a lot of times parents are like, you have to do basketball because like I played and I want you to do what I did. And it's like, no, like let your kids do what they want to do, support them on their journey. So I liked that. And I felt like we didn't, again, know much about their kids before. So to get a little deeper about Spencer, I'm glad he had a storyline.
Seeing more of their family dynamics, seeing more of the kids, I thought was good.
For sure.
And something that shook me, but was also fun to see, Kandi Burruss, Real Housewives of Atlanta, Fame of Escape. I cannot, but when I saw her on my screen, I was like, is that? There's no way. Kandi Burruss, what'd you think when you saw her, when she popped up?
I was so happy for her. I was like, she's no longer on Atlanta.
Yeah, big gig.
It was a tough role in a sense where like she was a like traumatized former ex who was like an alcoholic because of being with JT. And I was like the Leo meme. I was like, oh, Katie! It's good. Literally. You know her right as a Real Housewife and like a singer, producer. But I know she's been acting more. And I'm like, yeah, Kandi was good. She did a good job.
Now, what was your least favorite moments this season?
So, crazy how we haven't even mentioned like Shanelle and JT really. Because the season was all about the domestic abuse between Shanelle and JT and how she was being charged for JT's murder. And she was saying she attacked him because he was trying to kill her. That was the storyline, like the main storyline, like the trial that was going on the whole season. And Shanelle being Jax's best friend. Jax was very invested. Her friends were invested. Her family was invested. But she had to bring in someone like Morris Chestnut to help because she emotionally, she's too close. It was just like a very heavy storyline. Like it took me a while to finish the season. Like it wasn't very bingeable. I fell behind because it felt like every episode I was like, ooh, this is a lot. And I think it was well done. Just something that is like tough to watch. And they had disclaimers, of course, but there wasn't anything like redeeming about JT. And when they would show flashbacks of their relationship, it was like, ooh, this guy's awful. His mom protected him. Like, he was involved in skeevy things. He was mean to his ex, Kandi. Like, everything about him that was revealed, I was like, wow, he's awful. And it was sad that Shanelle stayed so long. And how he messed with her confidence and her independence because she was like independent woman doing her own thing until she met him, and then he took things away, like her job, her money, her autonomy. Classic. That's what men do when they want to control and abuse you. So it was just sad to see, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember I watched the first couple episodes and I was like, how am I going to watch the season? I remember being like, Shelby, I don't know how I can watch this. But I will say, I think it really picked up. I thought like after the first few episodes, like there were days where I watched like several episodes in a row. I thought that I thought it was well done. It was very heavy. I was like, I don't know how I can watch this, but I did like it. I liked how they gave a lot of context on their relationship, showing like how they met and how she, and how the abuse didn't start until like 10 years. Like the physical abuse didn't start until 10 years in the relationship. And like, right, that's how it happens, So it was dark and it was intense, but it felt so real. And the fact that like JT had so many fans and supporters and how they were trying to like make Shanelle a villain. I was like, this is too close to home. I was like, this is, especially, I don't know, right now I'm like, oh my gosh, these men in power, they're gonna have supporters no matter what they do, even if they're abusers.
He was an ex-NFL player, right? He had the power, the fame, the notoriety. He had the money, the media, the mom, all the things on his side.
I know. Yeah. And something else that was heavy, of course, Jax had a very traumatic season with Michael Ealy, and of course seeing her deal with her anxiety and having those panic attacks. Intense.
To say the least. It was smart to show that, because it's like literally a few months before she almost was like killed by Michael Ealy. She was kidnapped by him. And
Crazy.
then all of a sudden now her like best friend is being accused of murdering her husband. Like, it would make sense that she'd be dealing with anxiety, and then she's having issues with her husband, and then he cheats on her. Like, all these things, it's like, whoa, anyone would like almost break and have anxiety. So I'm glad they showed it because it felt very authentic. But it was just like tough because I'm like, oh, poor Jax. She's like hyperventilating when she's like in the courtroom. She's like trying to be there for everybody and she's struggling. So I'm glad she did take some like personal time and that she did bring Corey in, because you have to know at some point, like, okay, I do need help. I can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And I'm glad she noticed that. And that also felt like growth this season. I feel like season 1 Jax would not have asked for help.
No.
Season 2 Jax was like, I do need help.
Yes, lots of growth for Jax this season. Shanelle is such an interesting character this season. Because, right, she was this woman who was abused and scorned and, had a horrible husband. But she was doing and saying things that I was like, girl. Like when she ran away with Adrian, like the JT's friend.
Best friend she started a relationship with.
Right. And Sally literally put her house up for bail. And you're going to make your friend lose your house. I thought that was so insane. That was so insane.
Like her only kind of family member supporting her, who we find out helped her cover it up, knew the truth, and then doesn't tell her husband that she's going to put the house as collateral for bail. And then you turn against her and put that in jeopardy and then cause her marriage to fall apart because you want to run away? Girl. It was hard for Shanelle at times, for sure. She wasn't making the best decisions. She was very flawed.
Yes. And her like trying to comfort Jax and being like, you're not being there for me, all this stuff. And I'm like, girl, without Jax, where would you be? Literally behind Morris.
Yelling at the wrong person. Jax is not the person you should be upset with.
The worst part of this whole season was this whole Toni storyline and Lewis getting Toni pregnant. Oh my gosh.
Brutal.
What were your thoughts?
So season 1, Lewis, I really liked because he was trying to still be there for Jax and fight for the marriage. It felt like he started to lose confidence in the relationship and hope. So he was like, well, fine, I'm going to cheat too. And it's just like, if you're going to cheat, be smart about it. Don't have sex with someone and not wear protection. You're a grown man.
These men.
And to have sex with someone who's clearly sleeping around, she was sleeping with JT too, like, obviously,
Someone who, a mom at the school?
yeah,
Come
like,
on.
it is messy. It's just giving, like, you're both at the car pickup to pick up your kids. She was also sleeping with someone who's dead. She's a suspect, sort of. I'm like, dude, find someone else. And that's why I think Jax was so tight. She was like, you couldn't find anyone else? And the fact
Embarrassing.
that Jax found out before he could tell her was the worst part, because they were in therapy. They were sleeping together. They were feeling good about the relationship. He was like, oh, I was gonna tell you. I was just gonna wait, like, until
He got the paternity
the
test.
maternity test and it was mine. Now, the second you knew there was a chance, you should have told her.
And of course, a pretty big shock was Toni losing the baby.
Yes. After, like, she gave birth. I feel like that's, like, brutal. Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a stillbirth. It was like a baby that just was came a little premature and, like, couldn't make it. I feel like that's the worst. Because it, like, you had it and then it
That was really sad.
only lasted a few weeks or days.
And it's like part of, Jax and Lewis, and I guess even the audience are like slightly relieved because, you're like, well, Jax, they don't have to deal with, this baby. But of course it's sad that they lost the baby. So I think it's kind of mixed. I was like, oh, well, I guess that's, Jax doesn't have to deal with, baby mama drama. But of course, Lewis was upset.
This is where I think the writers get us. And I'm like, I think they're doing the most. Because then in your head, you're like, okay, great. They're done with Toni. There's no baby. They don't have to think about this anymore. But the cliffhanger at the end of the season is that Toni is suing Jax and Lewis for, like, emotional abuse or something. And I'm like, Jax really can't catch a break. I was like, get out of here. You have got to be kidding me. You're trying to prove that they led to, like, you losing your baby? Like, I don't understand.
I also don't understand. I think the producers, give me a better cliffhanger, producers. Yeah. I think this one, grasping for straws. I was just like, I don't know how I feel about the storyline. And right, like, why isn't it a murder? We had
like only
season 1 was that CEO, that black man who was married to a white woman, and he killed his, side piece. And this season was Shanelle and her husband. Like, I don't understand why it's not a murder. I think that should have happened.
I agree.
Because I'm like, this lawsuit, that seems like a stretch. Something better would be maybe Toni died, and then people might think, oh, like, Lewis was a suspect. Or, like, I think that might have been more interesting. Or maybe it looks like, a suicide or something, and then, they investigate Lewis or something. Like, that would have been more interesting. I'm like, the lawsuit? I don't know.
Because at the end, Toni's like, yeah, I want to do, like, a funeral for the baby, and I want to do this. And Lewis is like, no, it's too much. And she gets upset. I think that could have, like, been motive, right? Put her over the edge to do something, and also been motive for Lewis. So that's a good point. And that would have been crazy if Jax
had to
is the suspect.
Come on! We say this every single episode. Make us producers, make us right. Like, these are such good ideas. I don't care about a lawsuit. Toni dies, and then Jax and Lewis are both, like, that would have been so good. And then Corey would be back to represent Lewis, and Jax would be, yeah, perfect. Hey, come on, check.
I'd say the last kind of least favorite moment was just the fact that Shanelle was found guilty.
Yeah.
After we find out that she was covering up for her stepdaughter, who was coming home from college and saw her dad choking Shanelle and, like, used something to, like, hit him. I had a feeling, right? We all had a feeling like she was covering up for someone, because Shanelle had never fought back. And she was questioned, like, why did you decide to fight back now? She struggled to answer that. So it made sense that someone else killed him. Like, I thought it might have been, like, Adrian or her cousin Sally, but I never thought it would have been Naima, the stepdaughter.
Yeah, they made it seem like it would probably be Sally, which would have made sense because, right, she put her house up.
Mm-hmm.
But literally, I was not expecting that at all. When they revealed that it was Naima, I, like, actually started crying. I was like, this is so sad. Like, the daughter
Mm-hmm.
had to do that, and then Shanelle had to cover up with it. Like, that actually, like, gave me chills. I started, like, crying. I was like, it was just so disturbing because it's like she had to kill her own dad to protect her
Save
mom.
like her stepmom.
Oh my gosh.
Her adoptive mom.
It's like,
And
imagine all that girl has. Oh my gosh.
and her grandma is like, oh, your stepmom's awful, like, for doing, like, she's surrounded in spaces where everyone's like, oh, Chanel's awful, she did this, and like she's harboring the fact that I did it and she's protecting me. Like, that's a lot for someone to carry as a college-aged girl.
And I'm surprised, like, maybe we didn't see more of the daughter, right? That girl is 20, or I think, right? She's college age. For someone to be carrying that, like, we wouldn't, I feel like we would have seen outbursts, we would have seen something, you know, and the fact that we saw, like, nothing of the daughter, I guess, of course, they were doing that on purpose, but I was like,
not sense it at all.
I know, but I'm like, I'm surprised that the daughter had, like, was just quiet and, you know, the whole time.
Well, what's tough is, like, the mom, or like the grandma, JT's mom, wouldn't let Shanelle see them, right? She didn't want them to see the kids. And since Naima isn't, like, technically her biological daughter, she was able to see her younger daughter that she had with JT more often, but she rarely saw Naima because the grandma was like, no. So it's interesting. I think, to your point, it probably would have been good to, like, there may have been, like, hints that it could have been Naima if we saw her more. But I genuinely think the grandma was like, no.
I totally agree. Are you ready for our game, Shelby?
Yes, game time. Let's bring up the mood.
All right. Red flag, green flag, 1, 2, 3. Shelby, is it a red flag to join a rent control conspiracy?
Yes. I can understand, as someone who's, like, paying rent in a city like Los Angeles, it's expensive.
I mean,
I lived in New York and paid rent. Like, I get it, but I'm just, like, not a lawbreaker. You know, I'm a rule follower. What can I say? I never had a fake ID. Like, just, I'm like, follow the rules to a T. So I would just be worried of getting, like, caught. You would go to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're cashing people's, like, social security checks. You're doing, like, a rent control conspiracy. Like, all these things. And, like, this is, like, really bad. So I would be nervous about it. I feel like it could have been a green flag if they found, like, a legal way to do it. Like, why couldn't have Dudenhoff, like, given, like, the lease in their name or, like, the deed or something? Like, why couldn't there have been, like, a better way for him to give them the apartments instead of it being, like, a conspiracy?
Yeah, as we mentioned, that whole storyline did not make any sense. It was very convoluted.
Okay, Laura, question for you. Is it a green flag to support your man's side baby, like Jax did in Reasonable Doubt? She was very annoyed at first and was shady and questioned this woman on the stand like she was ready to kill her. But she was like, I'm with Lewis. I support Lewis. So I'm going to be in you and your baby's life.
I was very surprised that Jax decided to support the side baby. Of course, she was mad and skeptical, all those things. But I don't know if I could accept that baby. That just seems so hard to do. And right, Lewis made the point, well, you know, we both cheated during that time. We were on a break, you know, very Ross and Rachel. But, right, like, she wasn't dumb enough to get pregnant.
Yeah, it's different, Lewis. You guys had
It is different. You were irresponsible. I think it is a green flag to support your husband's side baby because it shows that you are loyal and that you see that you want to work things out. So it was definitely a green flag for Jax. I don't know if I could do that, but it is a green flag.
I agree. I think the fact that she's trying to be kind and empathetic and have, like, a solid family foundation and, like, be a unifier instead of, like, a divider, I think that's a green flag.
Yeah.
Would I have been able to do it? I don't know. It's, like, a really hard thing to do, but props to Jax for, like, really showing that growth and standing by her man.
Definitely. Okay, so overall parting thoughts. Are these Hulu murder mysteries a wait or watch, Shelby?
I think Only Murders season 4 is definitely a watch. I thought it was hilarious. Almost like how Hacks, most recent season, I was laughing so much. This season, I, like, couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was so creative, and I thought the twists were pretty elaborate, and like we said, the Dudenhoff stuff didn't really make sense, but I think overall as a season, It was an enjoyable season and had some really funny episodes like The Valley of the Dolls with Melissa McCarthy. Reasonable Doubt, I feel like I'm a little more wishy-washy on it because it's so like heavy, and I'm especially like post-election. Do I want people to like? Do I recommend watching something like this? I feel like you need something lighter. So I feel like maybe I'm a wait for this season, like this season of life we're in. But I think eventually watch. I definitely don't know if season 2 was as enjoyable for me. Maybe it was a heavy subject. Maybe because I felt like Jax couldn't catch a break. Maybe because I wanted her to have like more fun spontaneity with Morris, and I didn't get that. One of my friends was like, she felt like season 2 was just a soap opera and it was getting unwieldy. I was like, interesting. So I liked it, and I'm so happy it's been renewed, and I will watch season 3. I'm a little hesitant to be like a hard watch at the moment.
No, that's very fair. I'm a watch for both. I liked Only Murder season 4 a lot better than season 3. I think I was a wait on season 3. I think the first couple episodes I was like, oh, okay, like of Reasonable Doubt. I don't know if I can do this. But I ended up really enjoying it, and I think that it was done. Of course, it was heavy and dark, but I think it was done really well. The whole baby mama drama was wild. Like, I really was not expecting that. When Lewis was like, "It's mine," I was like, "Is this a joke?" Like, I thought that was
so annoyed.
That was a bit off the rails. I did enjoy the season. I thought like Naima being the one to kill Jake, like that really blew my mind. I thought that was like a really clever way to wrap up the story because it makes sense. She's, Naima,
and why Shanelle was like, "I'm gonna protect you."
Like everything made sense when they revealed that. I was like, oh. Yes, I get it. That's why they waited like 2 hours to call the police, because she was trying to like get Naima out of there. Like I thought the resolution was really good.
Have like a good story. Like it's why her story kept changing, and she didn't really know what to say because she didn't kill him.
I know. So I thought and it was very unexpected. And I liked how, even though Shanelle was found guilty, which I was very upset about, I was like, no, but she doesn't go to jail. She doesn't go to prison. Yeah, she gets to live at home. So I thought that was a good resolution too.
Yes, agreed. I guess that prosecutor for the LA,
she was annoying.
Came through in the end. She did something right, because the rest of the show I couldn't stand her.
I know. Yeah, and seeing her storyline with her abusive husband, I was like, how dare you? Like, literally, I thought that was so insane. Yes. Okay, so under what to watch segment.
We've already mentioned how Reasonable Doubt got renewed for season 3, and that'll be TBD, hopefully not a 2-year gap for the next season. And Only Murders in the Building also got renewed for season 5, so that'll be coming in 2025. Very exciting. And then also, I'm going to give a plug for the 77th Emmys in 2025, because Only Murders has been nominated in the past. Reasonable Doubt, who knows? Maybe they could get a nomination. And for Only Murders, I'm like, this season was so good. Maybe they could win something. They never win. And I think this season was so good, and given the Bears season 3 wasn't great. And like, who knows what Hacks season 4 will be like, but Only Murders, I think, could have a shot.
And who knows, maybe Martin Short? Maybe Martin Short will win.
Funny.
That'd be amazing.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, if you enjoyed this episode of Sisters Who Watch, this little mashup, let us know what you think of the comments about this form if you enjoyed it. And please give us 5 stars wherever you listen. 5 stars, please. Rate, download, subscribe, and give us a follow at Sisters Who Watch across all social media platforms. Comment on our posts. Interact with us. DM us. Let us know what you want to watch next. And you can also support us by buying our merch and selling us sisterswhowatch@gmail.com.
Yes. As Laura said, we really want to hear from y'all. You can email us at sisterswhowatch@gmail.com. You can comment on our posts on Spotify. Shout out to some recent commenters. We appreciate y'all, and we really want to hear from you. You can give us recommendations on what to watch next. You can DM us on all social media platforms. We're so grateful for the support, y'all. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you. Stay watching.